Hey, how you doing? This is JB with Going Wild, back here again. Today I'm processing some poplar bark. Put on my spectacles so I can see better here. Just getting over being sick. And this is the bark, and you can, of a tulip tree, as the state calls it, the Forest Service calls it tulip tree or yellow poplar, but the common name is yellow poplar. And you can see the best time to get this is, of course, you want to try to find it on dead, down and detached trees. But sometimes the trees will be standing dead, and you can go into the forest after a nice rain, and you can find this stuff just peeling off. And you can see this is about a 20-foot piece. And what we're after is this inner bark layer, this cambium layer type thing. Right inside, you can see how it just wants to peel off once it's wet. It just separates. And you want to get this from the outer bark. This is great for fire material. You can see how that just shreds like a long piece of material here. You can see how it just shreds right off. Look there. It just keeps on going. And what I'll do is I'll hang this out to dry, and it's one of the best in this area here in the southeast as far as starting fires. It is great as a tinder bundle. One of the processes, once again, going over what we went over last time, fire kit. Okay, you want tinder bundle. Usually poplar bark, you can use cedar, you can use some types of dried grasses, things like that. But I like poplar bark because it raises the temperature. It's called kindling temperature. Okay, so it's going to raise the temperature a little bit. One of the biggest mistakes I see people make is they'll get a flame started and they'll throw a log on it. But that's totally bypassing about 4 other steps. So you have different steps to go through to get to it. First, you have your tinder bundle, or first your spark. And usually you get that on char cloth. Then you have your tinder bundle, tinder, and then you'll have small kindling called pencil leads, what I call it. And then you go up a little bit more in the kindling temperature range. That'll raise the heat just a little more until pencil size. So we have pencil lead, pencil size. And the pencil lead, if you're in Western North Carolina, hemlock sticks, small twigs work perfect. Here in Eastern North Carolina, I like the actually the pine needles from like the longleaf pine. They're great. They're nice and long, and there's about pencil lead size. And they also, kind of like the hemlock in Western North Carolina, contain resin, which is very flammable. So it makes them increase the heat. So we got the tinder, we got the spark, got our tinder bundle. Then we have pencil lead. Then we have pencil size. Then we raise the temperature a little bit more to kind of like magic marker size. And then we raise the temperature a little more. That's where we can start putting on our split main fuel. Take the main fuel, like a log, probably wrist size or bigger, and split it till it's dry, nice and dry on the inside. Pro tip, even wet wood when split is dry on the inside. So once we get the temperature up to there, we can get a good flame going. At that point, we can start just adding regular fuel, and not far past that, you can start adding damp fuel or putting wood beside it that's damp, and it'll start drying out, and it won't take much for it to start drying its own fuel there. So the trick is to create a fire kit consistent of all these different levels, and to have it on hand just in case you need it. The time to prepare for fire is before you need the fire. Plan and prepare. Step 1 of L&T principles. Really comes in handy for fire building materials, for firecraft, as it's called. Untwist this a little bit. And so I'll take this poplar and let it dry. Then you can take and shred it just over and over and over again. Shred it and shred it. Once it's dry, then we call what we call bicycling it. Just kind of rough it up like this, separate the fibers. And what that does is it creates air in between the fibers, which holds oxygen, O2. In your fire tetrahedron or triangle, you have what? You have heat or friction, you have air, oxygen, then you have fuel. As long as you have those three. And if you don't have those three, you can troubleshoot what's wrong with your fire. If your fire's not igniting properly, you can say, okay, I've got air, I've got fuel, what don't I have? Heat. Okay, people, they get confused with fire building because they see the flame. They think of the flame as the fire. The flame is the byproduct of the fire. If you ever read the physics behind fire, you can look it up online. It's pretty interesting. But the heat heats the wood and it releases a gas, and that's what causes the flame, is that gas burning above. If you ever look real close, you can see it hovering just above a log burning, and that's because it's emitting this. The heat is causing it to emit this gas that flames up, and the combustion of the wood's a byproduct. And so once again, just bicycle this and shred it up, let it dry. And another good use for this is you can use it when wet. You can either let it dry and then wet it again for making cordage. I'll take this piece inside here in a minute and do a separate video on making cordage. Excuse me. But yeah, just separate this stuff. You can find it. You can identify the leaves growing here in the southeast pretty easily. You can go on your field guide for that. Tall, straight trees. They look like they used to build cabins with it a lot once upon a time because less working. They just strip the bark off. I like building things with it because it's easily worked wood. It splits easily works, carves easily. It works as a bow drill set to create fire, but like I've said before, it's one of the, I wouldn't say the harder woods to use, but it's definitely tougher than willow or sycamore. I like sycamore better than poplar. But I used to encourage people to start on a poplar set because it makes you a better bow driller in the long run. And so, and you just take your time and just process poplar bark. You make a day of it. You can sit there and shred it. I used to sit around the campfire and just do this quite a bit. And sometimes a lot of people say to soak it for long periods of time. I've had some bark that I've stuck in streams and submerged it for weeks and went back and got it. It's the exact same as the working. It was the exact same as the fresh stuff that I got. So I don't see much difference in that. But you can see this piece shredding. And you just want to separate it from the outer bark, this husk. You can see right here, this is a dry piece. It almost looks like a flat snake skin. And you can see the dry on the inside. See how it is when it's dry? It's still pretty tough on there. But it will separate once it gets wet. You can see it right there, wanting to separate. And you can wet that and it peels off much easier. But you want to separate that from the outer. The outer I pretty much just dispose of. I really don't use that much. But this inner bark, if you're looking to create fire, this is great material. Or cordage, great material. It's not as strong as yucca or some other fibrous plant materials, but I have made belts with it and straps, and it's held up pretty good. Anyway, separate video coming up on cordage making a little bit. I'll strip some of this off and do a cordage making here in a few minutes. See how this just comes right off. So fire making, plan ahead and prepare. And if I'm in the woods and I want to create a fire, I've got my fire kit always. And you want about a handful of pencil lead, a handful of pencil size, and And the main fuel you can kind of get where you go, and tinder bundles. You want at least 3 good tinder bundles, probably about fist size for small or double fist size for a large. In cold weather, I definitely use a double fist size. Warmer weather, you can get by with a fist size tinder bundle. And it just increases that kindling temperature just a little at a time, and it burns the fuels. But your pencil lead and your pencil size and your tinder bundles, that's the 3 things you definitely want to carry with you. Your main fuel you can find on the fly, pretty much. But if I can find it and it's dry, I won't use my kit. I'll just keep my kit in my pack and keep it in preferably a canvas bag. Wax cloth, wax would be good. For a wax cloth bag, you get the old bank bags, work perfect. You can get them online, or you can make them actually out of some painter's canvas and just sew a bag. Then you take some wax, the paraffin wax or beeswax. Beeswax more expensive, but you can get a paraffin wax and just rub it on there and heat it with a hair dryer and spread it on good. Or you can melt it on a double boiler and paint it on with a brush. But I would just rub it on there and just take a hair dryer and heat it, and it works perfectly. And you just kind of smooth it on there, and it creates wax canvas. No need to pay a whole lot of money for it when you can make it, kind of like our ancestors did. But you want to keep it in something like that. Plastic works, but if you use plastic, definitely keep it out of the sun, because what will happen is if the sun hits the plastic, it'll draw moisture, and it'll create moisture inside the black bag there, and it'll make your tinder bundles damp, which is not good. But when you can, use the fire material at hand so you don't have to use your kit. The more you use your kit, the more you have to replace it. If you do use your kit, as soon as you can, either dry new stuff by the fire or collect it dry, replace it as soon as possible. That becomes a priority after you use anything from your kit, via a tinder bundle, pencil lead, or pencil size. If you use any of those, replace it as soon as possible with dry. Once again, this is JB with Going Wild. Don't forget to hit like or subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.